All right. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to 3 Points Podcast. 3 Points Podcast is an extension of Bridge Crosser Solutions, where we are engaging or focused on the ministry of mental health. And as you know, mental health is a hot topic. So welcome. I am Fernando Cottrell, founder of Bridge Crosser Solutions, LLC. And just wanted to come with another podcast. We're going to be a little more consistent with them as we start building and tweaking some things. But I want to thank you for tuning in today on the 3 Points Podcast, where we always leave with 3 points of challenge and a call to action to help us to grow. So, I was asked recently about why I started Bridge Crosser Solutions. And I want to talk briefly about that, but I do want to get into the topic today. I believe it's a relevant topic, and you're going to be encouraged by it. When I started, well, let me say this: Bridge Crosser Solutions really came out of when I started doing coaching and consulting years ago. I knew I had a desire to help people, and I knew God had gifted me to encourage and to motivate. So when I started doing this, it was Next Level Consulting Group. Actually, prior to that, it was, I think, Cottrell Enterprises, where we provided resumes and we did a bunch of things, flyers and graphic design. But then I started realizing as I evolved that people lacked affirmation and encouragement. So we changed it to Next Level Consulting Group. Then over a period of time, we were blessed by that. Then I saw another need as time went on, like years went by, and I started noticing people needed a different type of approach. And make a long story short, Bridge Crosser Solutions is where we are today. And like with anything, you have to evolve, because sometimes your mindset is different at a particular point in your life. So we've been Bridge Crosser Solutions now for a while. Our slogan, as you all know, is bridges were not created to be admired only, but crossed. So let's cross together today. So, all right. So, I was recently talking with someone about one thing, but then it turned into another thing. And that's usually what happens when you're coaching or in counseling. Sometimes the conversation is not the main issue. There's an underlining topic or emphasis that a person wants to discuss. But sometimes you got to generically talk about things, and the real deal comes out in the process of time of just engaging conversation. So we begin to talk, and which led me to come on today to really hone in on Bridge Crosser Solutions and what services we actually provide as a professional coaching. But I want to get to this point, though. I want to talk about, before we even get to that, I want to tie in something. Bridge crossers, do you know that there is a phobia that people have in crossing bridges? And it's called, let me pronounce this, and I always have issues with pronouncing this, gephyrophobia, and that is the fear of crossing bridges. And in fact, those who have this phobia, just the talk of crossing a bridge creates panic and anxiety. And so for those of you who didn't know, that is a real phobia. That is a real fear. Gephyrophobia, the fear of crossing bridges, whether it's walking across, driving across, sometimes even flying across. It creates anxiety and a panic attack. And that's a real fear. I've encountered individuals who had that fear. And at some point I had that. It was this anxiety that will come upon me when we just started at the beginning of the bridge and you got to cross. It's like I would just panic and my heart would race. And I remember being, and as I overcame it, which I have, and we could talk a little bit about that. I remember being in the car with someone, and they wanted me to drive. So we had to pull over before we got on the bridge, and I had to drive over because the anxiety level of crossing that bridge, it was just too overwhelming, and they couldn't really handle driving and steering, and they begin to panic. So it is a real phobia. So Bridge Crosser Solutions was founded so we can help people cross the bridges in their lives. Bridges represent to some freedom because there's an opportunity to cross, but to some, bridges represent fear because it looks like an obstacle that they can't cross. And one of the things that I love about what we do, we get an opportunity to engage persons, groups and leaders, pastors, whoever. We get an opportunity to engage individuals with an approach that we have. We use we're faith-based. We use clinical strategies and coaching pathways. So we use a blend of faith, clinical strategies, and coaching to help people cross the bridges. Now, let's talk about that quickly. Many times we can succeed in other areas of our life, and still avoid a bridge maybe that we should have crossed, maybe an obstacle that was there. Maybe it's a type of trauma. Maybe it was something that occurred in life, and we designed another route, and that route may have brought us success, but internally we still had an unrest. We still didn't have peace. We still didn't have any resolve to our life, even though we can achieve. I often use a term called frustrated achievers. Frustrated achievers are those who may achieve the goal, but they didn't go in a healthy process in achieving it. And now they may have obtained that particular situation or goal, but they still are frustrated. And sometimes the frustration in our life is not because we didn't we didn't attain goals, or we didn't get the right job. But I believe a lot of frustration is internal because there's still a bridge left. There's still an area of our life that we did not cross in a healthy manner. We kind of drove around it, maybe dug a tunnel under it, or created an alternate route, but we didn't in a healthy manner cross the bridge. And but this fear, gephyrophobia, is a real situation that many are facing, whether it's spiritual or natural or symbolic things that represent a bridge. And that's what we're saying here. As this is particularly talking about natural bridges, but in a symbolic, metaphoric way, we can also use this for other areas of discussion about the bridges in our life that we avoid. Again, whatever we're battling, whatever we're facing, there is a solution. There is a way to master it. There is a way to conquer it, and there is a way to manage it or develop strategies of coping to help decrease in the anxiety. Now, I do agree there are some things that might never leave the earth. Then it may not never leave your life per se, but it can be managed in a way where it's not managing you, but you are mastering or managing that area. And Bridge Crosser Solutions, myself and my team of individuals, we have skill sets in various areas of the ministry of mental health. We have clinical backgrounds, we have pastoral backgrounds, we have counseling backgrounds, we have coaching backgrounds. So the blend of us coming together creates a solid team of individuals that are skilled in helping people cross the bridges in their life. We decided to go the route, the ministry of mental health, because everything involves mental health, motivation, relationships, careers. If you're in school, you need a mental health and psychological, social skill. Everything involves mental health. And And we want to have a healthy mental health. Sometimes we have poor mental health, but mental health really, the process of this is getting people to a healthy way of thinking, helping overcome limiting beliefs, establishing boundaries that create healthy and lasting results. And we, particularly now, my focus as a mental health professional, I've recognized over the years, just being a pastor or minister, that sermons don't always deal with the root causes. Sermons help encourage us, and we need to hear motivational topics. We need to hear things that help us to grow. But in the recent years, there's been a lot of negative talk about, maybe from a faith-based or church or body of Christ perspective, of the suicidal rate that has gone up, and rightfully so. The statistics have shown mental health in the church has grown to, or just been revealed now to, a point where you can talk about it. And I think we've swept a lot of things under the rug. We've kind of put things on the back burner. We made things kind of, just listen to this message and you can overcome. But there are root causes. There are traumas. There are things that are in our past that we have not dealt with. There are things that haunt us. We're smiling, but there are things that haunt us. We're leading people and we're haunted. We are overseeing things and we're haunted because we haven't really dealt with the root of that thing. And now, one of the reasons I believe, when we talk about mental health, people think mental health is the same thing as mental disorder. And when we hear the word mental health, it could sound like mental disorder to some. So, and many don't want to be diagnosed with something, or they don't want to be labeled or have a stigma upon them that says you got an issue. But mental health is generally about increasing in mental health well-being. And that's really what good mental health is about, maximizing your mind's ability to be whole. And in that process, some things may be discovered in our past or present life that are hindering us. And then we have to just deal with it accordingly. There's nothing wrong with saying you're struggling with depression. And the actuality, sometimes there's something wrong with just not being honest about it. You know, there's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, I got some things in my past that I need to overcome. I need help. Because if you avoid those areas, they don't go away. They don't leave the earth. They just wait for you and I to get to a better place in life. And then what you don't deal with, or what you've neglected to deal with, it seems like it shows up. It seems like it shows up at the point when you're at your best. Now that area of neglect just appears, and now you're successful and you got things going on, but there is negative forces, Satan, that will come and assure, while you're at a good, healthy place, so you think, what we have neglected now will show up. Now we got to battle what we've neglected while we think we are in a good place. But if we want to get in a better place, a more excellent place, then we have to confront whatever the bridge is that we are afraid to touch. Many times it's trauma in our past. Many times it's situations that occurred. But with strategies and help and therapy, there's nothing wrong with therapy and professional coaching, those areas can be overcome. You all heard my story, how I used to stutter. Man, I used to stutter. And my friends who know me, you know, when I would get anxious, then it would really kick in, like, woo, 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 woo. I would mispronounce words. So that created such a fear. It created such a fear that it made me not want to be in front of people. It hindered my self-confidence. I felt that I couldn't achieve. I felt like people judged me and looked at me through my stuttering and anxiety. Maybe they were, maybe they wasn't, but I remember people laughing at me sometimes or mocking me when I stuttered. So I stayed quiet. And On the outside, I may have looked confident, but on the inside, I was struggling. I was struggling with that thing. Now, let me just share quickly how I had to overcome that. And this is what bridge crossers, this is what we do. We help people cross the bridges in their life. You and I are not alone. In fact, before I even get to my point, the team of people that I have around me, Dr. Paul Flowers, Dora Rabb, Krista, clinician, McNeil, Adrienne Mina, my team, and actually we build from each other. Each one of them represent something that I need. So I'm surrounded by people who are great in areas where maybe I'm not. And that's one of the things we have to do. We have to get around some people that challenge areas where we might not be as strong, but they are. So we have to really link with people, and we got to exchange strengths, exchange affirmation. So this is part of what Bridge Crossers team is made up of, people that we are exchanging, and we're taking our exchanges and our expertise, and we're going out and we're providing the ministry of mental health. So I stuttered, and I remember now, at this point, I was a young minister. I think I was probably in ministry by then, 89, maybe. Yeah. And I heard this voice. Now, I know it was God, but I heard this voice out of nowhere. It said, now is the time. And I knew what that meant. Confront the fear of being in front of people. It just flashed. And what that meant to my heart was to get up on, I remember it was the 40 bus in New York, get up on the bus, and I want you to speak. I felt like God wanted me to share. Now, here I am, a stutterer. Here I am nervous. Here I am with anxiety. And then I feel like I hear God say, get up and speak. And the confirmation that how I know I heard from God was the fact that I got up and did it. And it was that moment that the stuttering, that for some reason, it became decreased. And I was like, whoa, what the world? I could get up and do this. So what I did was I began to confront the entrance of the bridge, the obstacle of getting up in front of others. I stood in the front of that thing. First of all, I had to conquer it in my head. And I said, I can do this. So I got up and went to the front of the bus. I think I may have asked the bus driver, can I share? He said, sure. And I got up and I began to talk, and I just shared for about 5 minutes, maybe 6 minutes. And I began to pray on the bus in front of about 80 people, maybe whatever a bus can hold. And it was that moment that I crossed the bridge. Now, crossing the bridges in our life doesn't mean you cross the first time you get on the bridge, but I crossed in my head while I was still crossing. So you have to get it in your mind, even if you haven't fully overcome or fully developed in that area, but you got it in your mind. So at that moment, I had crossed the bridge, the obstacle of being nervous, getting in front of people. I had crossed it because I did the very thing that was virtually impossible for me to do just because I just wanted to do it. But it was something, and this is what we do at Bridge Crosser Solution. We have a faith-based approach in what we do. So we blend faith. We use Christian counseling and coaching as part of the blend with clinical strategies and coaching, because this is where it's needed. I believe now in the ministry of mental health, we need to be able to minister. Well, we've created a ministry approach to this with professional protocols to it as well. So it was that day that I was free. I was free enough to recognize something had happened with my self-confidence, but I still had a slight struggle. But I was free enough to recognize that I can do this even though I'm struggling. And then it became more consistent. And the next thing you know, I started getting on the buses, the 40 bus, the church, the subway, the platform, the street corners. Now you're talking about a guy who stutters, who had issues with people and getting in front of people. I was afraid to even read in front of people. And here I am now overcoming. And the thrill that I was winning outweighed the negativity about the thought, negative thoughts I had about myself, because now I'm noticing I'm actually crossing, I'm actually doing this. So when I would hear things like, you can't do it, you're nothing, they had to be lies because I was actually doing it. So part of crossing bridges in our life is recognizing that when you are crossing, be aware of it. So let's talk a little bit about, let's leave with 3 points that I want to give to you on this 3 points podcast. This can't be 3 points podcast if I don't give you 3 points. So, all right. Let's point number 1. You got to recognize. You have to recognize that there is something that you need to. There's something lacking. I was talking to someone recently. As I mentioned earlier, many times conversations can be generic, but they lead to the intent of the person's heart, what they really want to talk about. And as they were talking about helping someone else, and I shared with them my services of what Bridge Crosser Solution does and how we help people. And then they realized, you know what, I think I need that. And as they called about this particular person, just to kind of get them going, they recognized there was some bridges in their life that they haven't crossed. Now, even though we can obtain, as I mentioned earlier, even though we can obtain great things, but one of the things that we teach people at Bridge Crosser Solutions is you want to also have peace. I don't want to accomplish a lot of things with a negative mindset. I don't want to obtain and still be angry. I don't want to get my degree, but I never dealt with anger. And many times, as I mentioned earlier, we can become frustrated achievers. We achieved the goal, but we neglected a bridge that really we would have achieved it in liberty. We would have achieved it with a peace of mind. Many times we can achieve goals and still hate ourselves, but why not achieve the goal loving yourself? So we want to recognize what the real issue is. We want to recognize, you know what, there's something that I need to cross. And as I begin to talk to this individual, she went back to an area of her life that she neglected. And many times we got areas that we neglected. Let me share my story, just a little bit of something else. I went through the most horrific time in my life. Man, it was devastating. And sometimes when you're going through devastation, heartbreak or whatever, you want to isolate. But I was in college at the same time of going through this horrific time. I was working on my degree in psychology. So as I was working on my degree, psychology deals with the mind, the soul, the emotions, and the being of man, or the psyche. And I realized that as I was working on my assignments, I was really building myself. I was healing myself through going to school. So my reports and all my thesis writing or presentations was really dealing with me. I might have didn't use my name, but it was really dealing with me. So we have to recognize where there's a deficit. There is an area in our life that hasn't been touched on, and we just got to be honest about it. So the first point I want to give you in 3 points today is you got to recognize the area, and in that process of self-reflection, self-awareness, thinking and pondering, you're going to get illumination of what the area is. Now, you might not understand what the area, you might not know what to call it, but this is going to get to the next point here. So once you recognize, you know what, I've got this, I've obtained that, I'm successful over here, but you know what, there's still an area in me that I've neglected, and I need to deal with it. So recognize, be honest. Honesty is really a powerful tool, because within honesty, it gives you the ability to reveal. Honesty is not always, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good, but it works good. Honesty doesn't always feel good when you have to be truthful about an area, but it works good. So we're talking about 3 points to help us overcome these bridges, this phobia that we have of crossing bridges, metaphorically, symbolically, the bridges in our life that we keep avoiding. Maybe it's the bridge of fear. Maybe it's a bridge of shame. Maybe it's the fear of feeling like you don't matter. Whatever the bridge is, bridges come in all shapes and forms, colors, shades, and dynamics. But whatever the bridge is, we have to recognize that it's there. Or we'll never cross it, and we'll just see others crossing bridges, see others that doing this, and they seem happy, they smiling, they going forth, and we're just looking and getting mad and then think they're not real because they crossed the bridge. So point number one, you got to recognize what the bridge you're afraid of. What is the bridge? Recognize. Just in that is also honesty. Number two, we got to develop goals. Once you recognize it, once you pinpoint it, and even if you're not 100% sure, but you're en route and you're working it out within yourself. Point number two is important. So these points kind of complement one another. So once you understand, also you got to now start thinking about, how can I overcome this? How can I get over? How can I cross this bridge that I've been ignoring for years? How do I do it? Well, in counseling and coaching, we use a term, we use what is called SMART goals. And these are goals that really, I use them. I use them for my personal life and in my coaching practice and as I deal with people in this arena here. And this approach is really, to me, it's a thorough approach. It works. You got to be flexible with it, but it's something called SMART goals. And SMART is an acronym for, we're going to just talk about it quickly. SMART goals are goals that are specific, they're measurable, they're attainable, they're relevant, and they're time-oriented or time-sensitive. So let's talk about SMART goals. So when you're trying to overcome something in your life, a bridge, that bridge, whatever it is, everything that we're trying to accomplish needs a plan or a strategy. It's basically it. You need a plan or a strategy to overcome, or just to do anything. You want to go to school, there's a process. There's application process. There is, finding out what the school is, and, you got to sign up. You got to call the school. So everything has some type of goals and strategy to it. So we use SMART goals to help us to identify. In other words, SMART, the S stands for specific. Be specific about what it is. You know what? I want to overcome the fear of public speaking. Okay, now you are specific about it. Or I want to overcome, like I overcame stuttering. I didn't know I was going to overcome stuttering. I didn't have in my mind to get up on a bus that day, but I've been pondering deep down what I really wanted to do. And then I witnessed a young lady do it some years earlier. So that image became something in my heart that I didn't even know existed until I heard a voice, which I believe is the voice of God, speak to me and say, now is the time, because immediately my mind went back to that lady. And then he said, and I was like, wow. And that image was brewing that I didn't even know. So I wanted to overcome stuttering, but never necessarily verbalized it, but God knew. And it was that day that the process started. So you got to be specific on what just call it for what it is. I struggle in this area. I want to overcome it, period. Now we create what is called, we got to measure how you determine if you're overcoming it. So the next part of this is create, what are the things to show that you're measuring? Maybe you are fearful less, or maybe you are talking less. Whatever it is, it's measurable. You can measure that you're growing. Then number three is A in the SMART, attainable. Is it, can you attain it? Is it attainable? just keep it simple. We don't make it astronomical and, oh, I got to make it like this and I have to do this. And no, so these goals are they call SMART because you have to be, there is a focus to these that doesn't bring condemnation on you if you don't meet it. It's a simple process to just progressing. And then you build as you start becoming whole in that area. Then you start building differently with these goals. So is it attainable? Start thinking about it. You got to think with these. You know what? Is this attainable? And then also, as you set these goals, you want to use relevant means. You want to be relevant. For R is relevant. Is it realistic? Is it relevant what you're trying to do? If you're trying to overcome fear, do you start off, and you can, only you would know where you are and how you are, but you want to have something that's relevant. You don't want to say, well, tomorrow I'm going to go host a conference at the White House. Is that relevant approach? So you kind of get the drift. Then number T, last letter is T in SMART, is time. Give yourself a time frame, 2 months, 3 weeks. So all these really complement one another when the plan is put out there and you work it and you have help with it. Sometimes you need help with creating SMART goals. Sometimes we can overthink or overplan or put something bigger, and then we become fearful to try because the first step is so big that we can't, we're fearful. So sometimes even in planning, you ever have when you feel like you want to do something, and what really scares a lot of us is thinking when we plan something we plan it in our mind, we almost start from the end, and that intimidates us because we don't start at step one. We can't, sometimes just human nature, I guess, we start at step 8. Step 8 is a process to get to. Nobody's going to jump into step 8. And that's not a healthy process. That creates anxiety and fear. But we can start at step 1. And sometimes step 1 is just, okay, you know what? I can do this. Maybe that's step 1. I can do this. Then step 2 is making a call. Or it could be reading a book, whatever it is. But we can do this. These things are attainable. And as we apply our faith and use the word and exercise faith, we can overcome these things. These are things that come to stop you from crossing the bridge. They come to stop you from reaching the other side. They come to stop you, those traumas, those things that have happened to you that you avoid. They create bitterness. Sometimes we're bitter because others who may have overcome it by being tenacious or by being determined, they did, when you see someone overcome or accomplish things, know that they had to struggle and they had to do something to get there. So let's not be mad that they did it. Let's just be, maybe ask what they did, ask how they did it. And one of the things that we do at Bridge Crossers, we help you. We help create a plan of action. And some of our coaches use SMART goals. I know I use them personally as I help people. So point number 3 in 3 points, once you recognize, now you create SMART goals. And now point number 3 is allow Bridge Crossers Solutions, our team, one of our coaches, of all of our coaches together, whatever, to help you. This is what we do. This is what Bridge Crossers Solutions, LLC, this is what we do. We help people overcome the bridges in their life, and we cross together with you. All of us have testimonies and stories of pain and failure, but we all have testimonies of overcoming those areas in our life. And we build and we help others through our own stories, through our skill level, through what we do, through our experiences, through our education. And with that blend, we can help you as well. Let me read this verse in the Word of God in chapter 7 of 2 Kings. 4 lepers were hiding in the cave, And because they had fear, they had leprosy. Leprosy and disease can bring trauma. We're living in a traumatic time right now. This is a traumatic hour. This pandemic has created a trauma. It is a trauma. It has halted people's lifestyle. It has halted people's businesses. And oh man, the psychological aspect of losing your business and going out of business and rage, being at home all the time. And these are bridges. These are things that have occurred because of this pandemic. So we're in a traumatic period of time, and it has creates anxieties. You know, we have the anxiety of now we have to homeschool. You know, I was talking to a parent recently. She just was stressed because she has to work and she has a child that's entering into kindergarten, first grade or kindergarten. And, you know, now homeschool, and the child doesn't necessarily understand homeschool. They're still looking at fun being at home. Now you're saying, I got to come home and do some learning. What in the world is that? So it's traumatic. People losing jobs. People don't have unemployment. So this is really trying to people's emotions. People are blaming others. Racism is high. Blaming this race, being mad at this. So this traumatic time has become a bridge that people now don't really know how to cross. They don't know how to cross. They don't know what to do. So when you don't know what to do, and then you put trauma with it, and you put trauma comes anxiety, stress, being overwhelmed. Now you start taking it out on people that you see. We start, you know, the term is we hate the people, we hurt the people that we love. Why do we do that? Because they are right there. They are right there. So let me hurt the people I love. And then when I finish hurting the people I love, let me go hurt people I don't love. This is all traumatic. This is a traumatic mindset. This is a mindset that has trauma attached to it. This is a mindset that has a lot of things going on in the head. So if we don't overcome that, if we don't have a plan, if we don't have a strategy, then now we become one with the trauma. We become one with the negativity. And God never intends for us to become one with negativity. You know, we have to engage the word and allow the word. This is one of the coaching perspectives that we use at Bridge Crosser Solutions. Allow the word to disciple us. God's word is the greatest therapy, greatest manual for therapy and wholeness and getting to the root, becoming whole. We have to find out, okay, approach it from a perspective of, I need therapy. And it's full of stories, full of situations, full of overcoming testimonies of people who had issues, who had burdens, who were halted by fear. And this story in particular, we have four leprous men that were experiencing trauma, the trauma of isolation, the trauma of feeling abandoned, the trauma of no one loves us, the trauma or the stigma of we got a disease and now no one wants to touch us. Now we four men who were four together, but also lonely in nature because now they didn't have family. They had to be outside of the camp. That creates isolation. That it creates abandonment. You can't go around people. And doesn't that look like where we are now? In a time of pandemic where we can't attend funerals, you know, that's hurtful. That's painful on the mind. That's painful. But we can't stay there. We acknowledge and we recognize that this happens or this occurred or is happening. But I want to use this particular passage of scripture because it talks about what they did with those emotions and what they did to overcome that. And I want to use that as one of the pivotal points in recognizing, using SMART goals and allowing Bridge Crosser Solutions to help you. These four leprous men were sitting there. They were left there to die because leprosy is incurable. So one of them says here, if we say, let's enter into the city, the famine is in the city, and we shall die there. And if we sit here, we also shall die. So come, let us surrender to the army. If they keep us alive, we shall live. And if they kill us, we shall only die. So the scripture says they arose and they went down to the camp. And by their surprise, no one was in the camp. What is my point in this? We have to get to a place where we say to ourselves, why are we going to sit here and just let this bridge always be before me and I never cross it? And now I have a life of regret. I have a life of, I wish I had. But you know what? It's not too late to get up, to arise, and to do, and to overcome that area, that trauma. I don't know about you, but these men, I mean, this story is so profound because they said within themselves, you know what? We're going to die anyway if we sit here. If we go into the famine is already out there. So we got leprosy. There's a famine. And if we go into town, we're going to die. So let's just take a chance. In other words, they said, why are we going to sit here? And I want to encourage you, don't sit there and allow the bridge that has been a plague in your life to stop you any longer. Bridge Crossers Solutions. We can help you. We can help you and we can cross this bridge together. We help people in areas of coaching them through OCD, anxiety, anger management, family issues, family dynamics, or family dysfunctions. We use a coaching, cognitive behavior coaching, and we help you overcome. We have a plan of action. So we just have a variety of services and approaches that we can help. I have a plan. I have one of my signature coaching programs is emotion. I call it 3 points actually. And one of the points is emotional rescue. You know, we're in a time where people don't have peace anymore. Mental health, dysfunction, negative mental health and dysfunction is on the rise. We see it on the news. We see people triggered. Trauma has a way of bringing out what's already there. So you got trauma that you haven't dealt with. Then you got present trauma that you're dealing with. What it's going to do is unearth what we've been fighting to keep down. And trauma that's compacted, continue to excavate or dig up what we've neglected. But we don't have to stay there. You don't have to stay there. I've been at some low places in my life. And my story, as I mentioned earlier, when I was in college, I was at the lowest place in my life. And I was also in college. And I went to school. I got my psychology degree, my undergrad, and I got healed through it. And then I went back, got my master's in human services counseling, and I was healed even more. So in other words, I was determined to say, I can't sit here and die. I have to fight. I got to claw. Whatever I got to do, I got to come out of this. So that's what we're talking about today. We also take questions. So if you want to email me some questions that we can, topics we can talk about here on 3 Points Podcast, do that. You could just text me. And you can go to the website, not text me, but email me. You can actually go to the website, Bridge Crossers, it's BRIDGE, Crossers, with it as CROSSERS.com. And it'll pull up the website of Bridge Crossers Solutions. And you can search. We have a lot of different things going on. You can review other professional coaches and maybe after reading their bio and seeing what areas that they specialize in, maybe you might want to hit them up. Their contact information is on the page as well. But we're here to serve you, the ministry of mental health. That's our focus, the ministry, we serve solutions. We serve what God has blessed us with in the area of mental health. You know, the scripture says in Romans 12:2, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind so that we can prove what is good, acceptable, and the perfect will of God. So it starts here, and we can help you, whatever that looks like in your life. So I want to thank you. Again, did I say contact? You can contact, actually you can DM as well. And Any questions or topics you want us to bring up during the podcast, we want to do that. I do have some topics coming up. We have some special guests that's going to be here. We're going to be just talking about mental health and how to overcome and how to live in victory, how to walk in victory. What is victory? You know, I got a class coming up, healing through grace, how to become or how to walk emotionally whole just through God's grace. And that I'm putting that together. I'm going to be with you soon with that. But it's maybe about 4 to 5 weeks of this Zoom virtual coaching and us gathering as a group. We're going to be doing that. So I'm putting that together because it's, oh man, when I understood how to be healed emotionally through God's grace, understanding what grace is, how you could become healed through it, man, my mind was free when I comprehended how I just became free. My mind became free. Shame left, guilt left. I was able to manage things differently. Now, I'm not saying I don't have triggers. I'm not saying I don't have moments, but I understand that what God has afforded us through his grace and what does that mean and how to appropriate that in my heart and mind and soul and walk it out. Man, it's liberating. So I'm putting that class together. Let me see what else before I close. Okay. Go to our website and there is a section on there that says that connect with us. Go to the connect with us. And when you do that, it'll connect you to one of the coaches. It'll connect you to the main email. And then you can specify if there is a coach that you want. And then that information will be given to you. So go to there. There's some information to fill out. We do respond within 48 hours just to let you know we're there. And then we do provide a consultation period, an assessment just to see what your needs are. But ultimately, we want to help you cross the bridges in your life. And what better way to do that is that we cross together. So you can DM, you can ask the question on the page, you can mention a topic that you want us to talk about. And so stay tuned. Remember the 3 points. Share this video or this podcast rather as we're building on it. And together we can change lives. Okay. So thank you again. This is Fernando Cottrell, 3 Point Podcast. Talk to you soon. All right. Peace.